pleasant good afternoon to you all, viewers here from St. Lucians in the diaspora, as well as well-wishers globally. We continue with our NTN programming this afternoon, August 21st, 2020, with an information session on Numeracy Hours, an initiative of the Department of Education, Innovation, and Gender Relations. And it will take the form of a panel discussion sort of amongst just between myself and four experts in the education field. We do have in studio with us Ms. Jonella Giffard, Curriculum Specialist for Mathematics. A special good morning to you. Mr. Ian Hippolyte, a numeracy coach. Ms. Vangie Charles, teacher at the Patricia D. James Secondary School. And Mr. J. Deroses, teacher at the Micoud Secondary School. A pleasant good afternoon to you all four.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much for being here. I guess I will start with you, Ms. Giffard, Curriculum Specialist for Mathematics at the Department of Education. If you could just open this information session with an overview, give us an understanding of what Numeracy Hours is all about and what inspired it from the part of the Department of Education.
Okay. Numeracy Hours basically speaks to, it's actually an intervention that has been put in place to assist struggling mathematics students at 4 of our schools. It's actually a pilot program right now, and the focus is on the 4 schools: Micoud Secondary, Cyrus Simmons Secondary, Patricia D. James Secondary, and Cicero Secondary. The whole thrust behind the program is to increase students' performance in math. Now, one of the things that we have recognized over the years with those, well, it's just those 4 schools, but what we have also recognized is that a lot of students leave the secondary school, and in most cases, they cannot move on to higher education because one of the subjects that they don't actually have, which would give them access to move on, is math. So basically, the program that we have there right now, under I should say the tutelage of our numeracy coach, Mr. Ian Hippolyte, is to go into the schools and to provide that support and guidance to our students and to our teachers as well. So in a nutshell, it's an intervention program.
Wonderful. And now switching over to numeracy coach, Mr. Ian Hippolyte. Good morning to you. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
If you could just talk to us about, I understand it's a pilot phase, as Ms. Giffard indicated. Speak to us about how the initiative was rolled out into those pilot schools, and so far what has been achieved.
Okay, so it was rolled out. We first had a meeting with the district education officers, the district coordinators, the principals, and the teachers who teach mathematics in Form 4 and Form 5. And we brought them on board, and we let them know what the program is about, and basically to get them involved in the initial stages of the program. After that, we met with the students. I went to the schools, I met with the students, and I also met with parents at parents' meeting to let them know the intervention that the ministry is undertaking and what steps will be taken to help their students improve in their mathematics performance.
Okay, and at these various schools, these pilot schools, we did have Patricia D. James Secondary School and Micoud Secondary School being part of that pilot phase. I don't know which of you two want to start, teachers of the school, Mr. Deroses and Ms. Charles. Just speak to us about the reception with this pilot project so far and the fruits of it in terms of the performance of the students.
Okay, I'll start. Good afternoon, everybody.
Afternoon.
I believe this program is a wonderful one. Math, as we know, is a global problem. It's a challenge for a lot of students. And this initiative, if it is geared at helping those students improve, it is well welcomed. So when Ian came to the school to speak to us about it, he was welcomed. We were happy with this program because at our school, the results have not been that much to talk about. And any help that we could get to boost the performance of those students is welcomed. So the teachers, we were receptive. We've been to a few workshops, which were very helpful. And we're hoping that they continue because it's a new program. And training is very important if you are to achieve the goal that you want. So in terms of the students, they were kind of hesitant when they saw strangers in the classroom. I got a lot of questions when they left. Miss, why are they there? What they come for? They came to watch us, those kind of things. So I had to let them know that it's a program to benefit them. It's a program to help boost their math performance. It's a program to build up the school's image in terms of mathematics. So going forward, I know they will be looking forward to having Ian and whoever else is with him working with us in the classroom, because some of them were very happy to have him, whilst I was teaching, to have him working with them, giving them that one-on-one that I may not have been able to give them at that point.
Okay, Mr. Deroses.
Well, at first, at the Micoud Secondary School, because when the program was first being introduced to us, it wasn't introduced to the class at first. We were called on the side, we were informed as to what it was going to be and so on. And I was one of the teachers who resisted it. Not because I thought that the program in itself, the idea was a bad one. I thought it was a good one, as I've been coaching as much as help as we could get in the classroom. We need it, we want it. But I resisted it because of the amount of resources that were being given in to get it going on the island. Because at first it was supposed to be all secondary schools, and then it had to be reduced to 4, which is what is going on at present. So this is one of the reasons I resisted it. But as things went on, well, Ian could tell you, I told him, I know I wouldn't be seeing you. Because the mere fact that we do not have enough resources to run this program, you are just this one person, the idea is good, you are all in for it, you tell me that I'm going to see you, but I could bet you I won't be seeing you. I was glad that I was wrong. Because he did show up, and he worked with the resources that was given, him being the human resource. And he did, I guess, all that he could do as that coach for all 4 secondary schools, because we're talking about running from one end of the island to the other. And if you are going to be a coach, if we could think of what it is, you have to be present to observe what is actually happening as often as you possibly can, so that you could direct in the way that you should, so that the success of the person being coached or the trainee could be achieved. So him being in the classroom, there was fruit shown. I would have to discuss it at length too, so that we could, so that people could become aware of it. But from what I saw, the interactions that he had with us, the interactions that he had with the students, it showed that there is a lot of benefit that can come from it. There is a lot of benefit that came from it, and there is much more that can come from it. In essence, what I am saying is that for the program to achieve its intended purpose, the resources that are given to it now are not enough, and more resources should be placed into it. It is a great idea.
I appreciate your early advocacy for an extension of more resources. Ms. Giffard, you're being put on the spot there. Just to go back to you, Mr. Hippolyte, if you could just speak on the lessons itself. What does this entail? Because mathematics, I myself, having been confronted with some issues myself while going to school with math, I know many others who are watching would have had their math issues as well. How would you make mathematics appealing enough, to really get the attention of the young persons who are dealing with having some difficulties with mathematics? How do you make it, how should I put it, sexy? How do you make it, attractive, to get them to understand, grasp the concepts of mathematics and perform better?
Okay, so, well, first of all, what I do, I work with the teacher, the individual teacher, so it's not just me. But when I go into the classroom, I observe. My main focus there is to observe the teacher and see how best I can improve what's happening in the classroom. And the teachers will tell you after every classroom, I sit with them, and then we discuss what happened in the classroom. So that's from the teacher aspect of it. From the student aspect of it, when I sit with them one-on-one, the first thing I try to do is to get them to change their attitude towards the subject. I think that's a major stumbling block towards mathematics. There's a perception that I can't do it, and you hear that all the time. Mathematics is difficult, mathematics is hard. And with that attitude, you definitely will not achieve your true potential if you keep that mental block. So the first thing I do is to try to change the attitude when I sit one-on-one with the students. And then after the attitude change, then they realize that, you know, it's not that difficult. And then we sit down during break and lunch, and I sit with the students during break and lunch. And then we have wonderful sessions after school, during break and during lunch. So that's some of the ways and the strategies that I use to make math, as you say, sexy and more appealing to the students.
Okay, and the numeracy lessons itself, I don't know who would like to take the lead on it in terms of what would happen. Is it really a pointed classroom session, a lesson that happens, or is it something that's incorporated into the syllabus?
Okay, so the program is multifaceted. It involves teacher training, like Ms. Charles said. We have at least 4 training sessions with the teachers. So we started with the teachers. Then we have lesson plans. We got the assistance of 2 content developers, Mrs. Laura Goodman and Mr. Tiberius Aristi. So their responsibility was to devise lesson plans, interactive lesson plans, more appealing lesson plans, so that the teachers can use those to get the students more involved. One of the aspects of those lesson plans, I must add, is the point of relevance. Most lesson plans do not have relevance. The students ask, so why am I learning this? Why am I doing this? So we try to incorporate in all the lesson plans that the content developers came up with a section of relevance, so that the students, the teachers can relate to the students why they're doing what they're doing. So that's the lesson plan aspect of it. And in the lesson plans, we try to make it a bit more interactive, a bit more student-friendly, and so that's the lesson plan aspect of it. So then the teacher now takes the lesson plan and tweaks it, develop it as to how he or she would like it for his or her particular set of students. And then I'm in the classroom observing and offering assistance when needed and necessary. Okay. And at the end of the lesson, I sit with each teacher, and then we look to see how best we can make the next class more interesting and more fun and more interactive, and to better achieve our goals.
Okay, I certainly want to hear from Ms. Charles and Mr. Deroses how they have taken unique steps to improve the response to mathematics in their classrooms. You are watching the Midday Update, and we are having an information session with teachers and the curriculum specialist for mathematics at the Ministry of Education, as well as the numeracy coach, Mr. Ian Hippolyte. Stay with us. We will have more after this break.
She's been watching, waiting, wondering when the sands of time will give way to a tide of change, and for yesterday and today to become a new tomorrow. For a time when her sun can kiss the cheeks of your loved one, and her stars can twinkle in her honeymoon skies. When her earthly embrace will reassure and calm your soul. And her unique view can change your whole perspective. Proudly, she has risen to meet new challenges and to provide safe harbor to all who reach her shores. For her hopes and dreams still stand, shoulder to shoulder, a precious reminder of experiences yet to come. So, wherever your moments and memories take you, let her sense of adventure set you free. She is Saint Lucia. Let her inspire you.
Thank you so much for staying with us. We're having quite a candid conversation on mathematics at the school level with 2 teachers, Patricia from the Patricia D. James Secondary School, as well as the Micoud Secondary School. We're talking numeracy hours, the latest initiative of the Department of Education to get students to grasp mathematics better. And one statistic is just very concerning. 2018, 43% of students who wrote the CSEC examinations in St. Lucia did not meet the minimum requirement because they were not able to attain a pass grade in mathematics. And so the Department of Education has been working assiduously to remedy that, and beginning with, and amongst other initiatives, this Numeracy Hours initiative. We came off our last segment speaking on just some of the ways in which this program has been rolled out into the schools. And at this point in time, I want to engage you, Ms. Charles, as well as Mr. Deroses, on the unique ways you have incorporated the engagement with Mr. Hippolyte on how to improve the teaching and bringing in the whole Numeracy Hours, incorporating it into your classroom, and the unique ways that you've been able to get across to your students. Mr. Deroses.
You're going to start with me.
Ms.
I
Charles.
was about saying ladies first.
That's okay. Okay, when Ian comes to my classroom, well, let me just say generally, teachers have this fear or this notion that when they're under observation, they're being scrutinized and they're being assessed. And I am not one of those teachers who has that belief. I am very relaxed. I am very open to that concept because I believe as an educator, we are not perfect. And if we could get this help to better ourselves for the benefit of our students, it is all well and good. So this program, when it started off and I was told that our school was one of the pilot schools, I was actually happy because I actually started at Patricia James September 2019. This is my first year at the school. I was away in the BVI for the last 5 years. Okay. And I was happy to come back home. And when the principal asked me to be at that school, I said to myself, because I had known about the results of that school, and I'm like, oh Lord, do you think this is where I need to be? And I prayed about it, and I prayed, and I said yes. So I went. I went to the Patricia D. James Secondary School, and I must say, from the reports of my students, they are thankful to have me as their teacher because it's been said to me, Miss, I am very happy that you're my teacher. Things I used to think like I could never pass or I could never understand concepts, and you make it so easily. Miss, you're so full of life. Miss, I could see the passion that you have. And yes, I am weak, but I am willing to work on my weakness as long as you're there with me. So I am willing and 100% committed to the program. My only concern with this program is, however, the level at which it started. And this is a grave concern for me. Grade 10 and 11 are towards the end of the student's secondary school life. What happens at the grade 7, grade 8, and grade 9 level before they get to us at this level? There are lots of misconceptions that they come up to us with. There are lots of difficulties and basic stuff that they're lacking from those levels that they come to us with. So you could imagine the difficulty that we have when they get to us at this level, because some of us do not teach them at those lower levels. We teach only the upper levels. So I believe this program, in order for it to be more effective and more beneficial for the goals that they want to obtain, is if they could have started at the Form 1 level, grade 7 level, where the foundation would be set with those students, and then they could be taken up to the other levels gradually. Because building on a rocky foundation, it makes no sense to me. But the program is there, it's initiated this way, so I'm working with it.
So, Ms. Charles, just a question. What are some of the areas in mathematics do your students find difficulty with? What are some of the areas that you have had to focus on and make them understand? Just going back to your statement earlier, how it starts from grade 1, Form 1, Form 2, Form 3. So what are some of these subject areas that you've noticed issues with?
Okay, algebra is a great struggle for them. Vectors and matrices. Trigonometry. These are some of those are abstract, so it's more difficult to get them to see and visualize and bring concrete or manipulatives for them to help them understand. So these are some of the concepts that so far I have really seen to be problematic for some of my students. Okay. Consumer arithmetic, it's, I would say, one of the best. Maybe it's because of the whole tangibility of it, the experience that you could actually live it. So this is one of the concepts that the students actually perform better at. Yeah.
Okay, and Mr. Deroses?
All right. First of all, the experience, I wouldn't say that it was unique in itself with Mr. Hippolyte being in the classroom. All right. Maybe to the students in the sense that there was somebody there. And so at the beginning, I think they were on their best behavior in the sense, I say best behavior in inverted commas, because in essence, they were just quiet in the class and I had to like prod them. Hey, come on guys, this is just like a normal class. Mr. Ian is just here to help us. Just think of him as just being one of us in the classroom. So that was like the uniqueness of it in terms of him first coming. We had a few experiences that showed his presence is a help, having him as a coach, observing what I am doing and observing the students' responses and what they are doing, taking note of it and making an assessment, meaning that something would be done to help boost their understanding. That is the other unique side of it, or the added facet of having somebody continually observing to make the necessary adjustment, which is in essence what a teacher should be doing. But sometimes, well, I shouldn't say sometimes, at every instance in the class, because you have a class of 30, and it may be more in some instances, having extra eyes is always a great help. So let me go to some of the, let's say 2 instances that shows that him being present in the class helped. I had a student that I had been observing for a period of time. In essence, she did not respond to me properly or well.
To your teaching?
She did not respond to me. Call it my teaching, call it whatever. She was not responding in the class. And so I had to observe her over a period of time, because apart from not responding in the math class, even if I took her to a side to try and talk to her to find out what was wrong, even if I tried to get her peers in the class to find out what was wrong, I was getting no response. And it was not until Mr. Hippolyte took her to a side, spoke to her, that she actually responded. So him being a stranger actually helped, because things that nobody else in the class knew, and I'd been observing her for months trying to get through to her, because I tried a number of things. I tried speaking to her at first, which is the first and most obvious response. When I recognized I wasn't getting through to her, meaning getting the content across to her, I tried to use her friends in the class, set them up in groups where she could interact with them so that she could have still no response, or not as much as I thought that I should have gotten from a student in the class, because you need students to respond to you. If you just the one delivering and there is no feedback from your delivery, then in essence you get in nowhere. And when Mr. Hippolyte came on one of his visits, I made mention of the situation to him. He had also observed it, and then he took her to a side and spoke to her. And it's in speaking to her that we were able to start making progress with her, where the response that we were getting from her, I'm not talking about the correctness of her work per se, but the response that we were getting from her was much more. And if you get in a response, then you could act better. But when you get no response, you basically lost, because teachers are not mind readers.
True.
So this is one of the instances where having the extra eye or the extra pair of eyes helped. A second situation was when I had given my students an assignment, and normally what would happen is either the assignment would be reviewed in the class, it depends, or the assignment would be collected and then we would move on from there. But it so happened that with Mr. Hippolyte being in there, I collected the assignments, and I just had this hunch. I just gave him all of the assignments. And what we were doing was discussing, not just the assignment, but just discussing the topic. And what happened is that while we were discussing, the topic. He took the assignments and started running through them, taking note of the names and so on. And in the class, while the class was going on, he took the opportunity to just call on specific students while we were discussing the topic and ask them certain questions and ask them like what they thought about this specific situation. And what that did was shed light again on how many hands make light work, in that the students that showed to have problems in the work that they delivered, he was able to point them out, because I, as a teacher, I wouldn't be able to peruse all the assignments and at the same time interact with the students. So he was able to do that, and we were able to identify many more students from the classroom than if I was the only one doing it, who had problems and addressed the problems within the classroom. So these are two instances, positive instances, that showed that the coaching sessions, they are very good, they have their pluses, and that is why I'm saying that more resources are needed, because one person
He needs help.
cannot do so much work, and it will make the good idea look like it is ineffective, like it's not working. So these are the two situations that I wanted to point out that showed that, you know, definitely this thing is working, although I was one who was against it. And again, I want to say, I will reiterate that it wasn't because the idea wasn't a great idea. The idea is actually a great one, because we know what teaching is in the classroom. Our 1:30 ratio, we know what that is like. If you're actually a teacher, right? Those who teach, they know. And having more coaches and running the program, not only for our school, the pilot schools, but for the entire island, if we want to see the changes that are intended.
Okay. Go ahead.
I thought you wanted me to comment on.
Go ahead.
Okay. So you asked a question about, in essence, our teaching, right? So why I said that the situation was not unique is that I think that when he came in, I just continued teaching as I normally taught, right? What I think happens in the realm of mathematics or teaching, learning, understanding is that, and let's be very specific with mathematics, is that the basic principles of mathematics are not strengthened in students when they come into the secondary school.
Amen.
And because that foundation is not established for the students, you find that they are all over the place. They come into the secondary school, we have a certain amount of time to deliver. So you find that usually, because we are caught between a rock and a hard place, or so we perceive, right? We have to deliver content without understanding. So you find students working a lot from memory rather than understanding.
Comprehension.
Exactly. And as a result of that, the problems start coming up, and it just grows exponentially. And if we would take time off, the time that we think that we don't have, to establish that foundation, whenever that foundation is established, the growth would become exponential in understanding. And then we would recognize that the time that we don't have, we actually have it. Because the time that you would have to spend on a concept or on a topic, whatever you may want to call it, be you call the concept algebra, be you call it trigonometry, geometry, and so on, the time that you would spend teaching it would be much less because of the foundation. Because it was established, you wouldn't have to spend the amount of time that you think that needs to be spent on it. That is, if the foundation is established. So what I say is that we revert to first principles instead of just teaching concept. just for the students to remember. In essence, you go, you cram for the subject, you write the subject, but by the time you finish, even if you did get 100%, that has evaporated from your mind because it was never established in you.
And cramming is not always reliable when you're sitting in an exam room.
Especially math.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And what I've realized over the years of teaching is that most of us teachers tend to teach students using those problems. And if you give them a problem triggered any slight way different, it's like they're totally lost. They have no clue what to do. So here we see the importance of first having them understand the concept. What is it about? The relevance of it before actually delving into the strategies of solving those problems. I believe this is very, very important because if math teachers took the time to do that, okay, we're learning about consumer arithmetic. What is consumer arithmetic? How is it beneficial to us? Where does it apply? Rather than going straight and okay, look, find simple interest, find compound interest, find depreciation, and they have no idea what those things are. So I believe if we as math teachers, with the help of our numeracy coaches, take time to explain and delve into those concepts, the understanding of those concepts, it may help us transition to the benefits of what this whole program is all about.
Okay. You both mentioned the importance.
Yeah, go ahead.
You both mentioned the importance of the foundation at the secondary school level upon entering. But perhaps you, Mr. Hippolyte, teachers can speak on us not getting math-wise at Form 1. Because having a math mind, it's from very early on, even prior to secondary school, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you expound on that perhaps? Because the importance of it, certainly primary school, in terms of the continuation, perhaps there needs to be some link with the primary schools into secondary school to prepare for CXE ultimately.
From the primary school level, this is something that has really irked me for years. I've always realized, even at my time going to primary school, I realized that the teachers who actually taught math at the primary school level were not enthusiastic about it. They didn't have that love. They were just doing it because they had to do it. But over the years, I've realized the transition in the system where we have some specialized teachers who teach only math and science, and some teach only English and social studies. And this, I believe, is a great thing. Because to have somebody who is passionate about it, you're able to pass on that passion and that drive to your students, that love for it. The students will emulate you. They will want, oh, Mrs. So is, you know, so it will rub off onto them. And if they could see your drive and your passion about it, it will help change their mindset. Because math, I believe, it's a mental block. It's the stigma attached. Once you hear math is difficult. No, it's not. And if we come with that barrier, you could come with the best lesson plans. You could come with the best strategies, and the students have this mental block. You will achieve nothing. So I believe as a teacher, my approach before I start any class, I meet any new students, I have this one-on-one discussion with them. How do you feel about math? What do you like? What do you don't like? What would you like me as your math teacher to do? And these are some of the things I realize have helped me as a math teacher reach out even better with my students.
Right, personalize it.
Yes.
Absolutely. We are speaking numeracy hours and delving a little bit into mathematics and starting from a very, very early age. Don't want to digress too much into that. We're due for another break today in this program. When we come back, we've been hearing from the two teachers the need for more resources and the need to perhaps start earlier at the secondary school level with this sort of support through numeracy hours. When we come back, we will be speaking to Ms. Giffard again on, the origins of this program, how it is being funded, and it being a pilot project at this time, where the ministry is hoping to go with this venture. Stay with us.
Better yet, use soap and water. We must protect each other. If we solution. Together let us win this war. Be a soldier, together we can beat this corona.
So you don't become the next case. Avoid touching your face. I'm sure you've been told so. Handshakes and hugging are up. No, no.
Advice, give you the please. Cover your mouth and your nose if you cough or sneeze.
Practice social distancing and avoid large social gatherings.
Together let us win this war. Be a soldier for St. Lucia. Together let us win this war. St. Lucia, be a soldier. Together we can beat this corona.
For further information, please contact the hotline at 311 or the Bureau of Health Education at 468-5349.
Project. Education Quality Improvement.
Recognizing the challenges experienced with mathematics, the Department of Education, Innovation, and Sustainable Development conceptualized the Numeracy Hours initiative, Numeracy Hours program. And so far in this afternoon midday update, we've been having something of an information session, speaking to two teachers who've been benefited. Their schools benefited from the Numeracy Hours in its pilot phase. We've also been speaking to an administrator, numeracy coach facilitator, numeracy coach Mr. Ian Hippolyte, and curriculum specialist for mathematics at the Department of Education, Ms. Jonella Giffard. And before we went to break, we did speak to the teachers who did articulate and express the need and the desire for a more expansive version of this program. And taking into consideration that this is a pilot project, I just first want to engage Ms. Giffard on the beginnings of this project in terms of the funding and what are the plans of the Department of Education in terms of expanding this program from last year's format.
Okay, in terms of funding, since we have had the enrolling of Equip.
What are the plans of beginnings of this project
Equip
in terms of the
thus far?
and what are the plans of the Department of Education? Oops, we seem to be having a little overlapping in the audio. Okay, go ahead, Ms. Giffard.
Yes, that's the Education Quality Improvement Program. The funding for Numeracy Hours came under this program. In terms of the extension, well, for now, we just have Ian as the single coach
who's
for
doing
now.
a splendid job, as we hear.
And I would hope that for future reference that we would expand on the number of coaches, given that we have seen the success stories coming out of the initiative thus far. In terms of, what else? Get me back on track, please.
Let me just add something. Well, we've been doing the 4 schools, but I just want to say that there are other schools who've heard about the program. For example, Barbono Secondary. Barbono Secondary heard about the program, and immediately the vice principal called me, and Mr. Benzi was like, he wants his school to be part of the program. So we came up with an understanding that, because I'm down to do the 4 schools, yes, but in any way possible, I would assist his school. So I met with his teachers. We had a program, and they've been getting almost the same benefits as the other schools. In communication with the chief of education officer and the deputy chief, there is plans to improve. We want all the schools on Ireland to be part of this program. But as Mr. Deroses was saying and Ms. Giffard was alluding to now, funding is a big issue. And we thank Equip for coming on board for the past year. And so right now, that is where we are in terms of the program. That we want other schools, we want the entire nation to be part of the program. But as of now, with only one numeracy coach, it cannot happen in that regard. Okay. There's another facet to the program, and that's the teachers we trained in the use of one of the LMS, the learning management systems in terms of Moodle. So before COVID started earlier this year in March, I think when school closed, we were already training the teachers as part of the program on Moodle, and one of the learning management systems online platform. So the teachers, all students of Form 4 and Form 5 of the schools sign on to the platform. All the teachers are signed on to the platform. So that is another aspect where I don't necessarily have to physically go into the classrooms. All the schools on the island can log on to the Moodle platform and be part of the program as well. And lastly, for me, in terms of resources, as part of the program and the EQUIP as well, we were able to source some resources for the schools. Ms. Charles, Vangie spoke about consumer arithmetic being a hands-on topic, and they know money, they can touch the money, they can feel the money. With the concept of algebra, let's say, it's rather abstract. So, but there are certain ways where, for example, certain topics in algebra, completing the square. So what we have done is that we've gotten the algebra tiles to assist those teachers and students to actually manipulate and complete the square and see how algebra and using the algebra tiles can relate to completing the square, the whole abstract concept of completing the square. So we were able to, now we didn't just go and get ahead and get resources on our own. We started with the teachers, we started with the schools, and we asked them, what is it you would like? So we have sourced, we were able to source for the schools, calculators, geometry sets, projectors, graph boards, what else? We've been able to source a wide range of materials that the students, the teachers need for their classroom. So of course, assist the students in mathematics.
Awesome.
Okay. Is that news to you, Ms. Charles?
It's awesome. Very beneficial.
Wonderful. And you mentioned Moodle, and it just brought me to think of COVID-19, the whole pandemic. You, Mr. Hippolyte, or Ms. Giffard, if you could speak to how the program will be traversing through this whole COVID-19 context in terms of assisting students, because now more than ever before, you know, with the uncertainties of the pandemic, kids need reinforcement in their studies.
Go ahead. Okay. Given the different options that the schools have been provided with moving forward from September, the blended approach would work nicely in this situation. So in the case where students will not be there physically in the school, they can also work from home, which was actually what was happening during the shutdown. So and right there, the teachers can actually monitor what the students are doing. They can actually see who's signing on, the frequency with which they're being signed on. Also, because some of us have administrative rights. Mm-hmm. We can actually see the teachers who come on as well.
Nice.
We can monitor the students, whether the activities are being done, whether the end of unit tests are also, or exercises are being done. So it gives us that opportunity for monitoring from any end, whether it's in the office, from home, nighttime, daytime, we can get that monitoring done.
Wonderful.
Yes.
And one of the beautiful things about the Moodle platform, LMS, is that a teacher at the Giffard Comprehensive School can share an idea that has worked for his or her students, and all the teachers sign on to that platform could benefit from that. And Ms. Charles at Patricia James Students and Mr. Deroses from Micoud can use that activity, and they can benefit their students to assist them, of course, in improving their grades.
Okay, some Moodle reviews from the two teachers on panel.
From my school, the teachers are the ones who have solely gone onto the Moodle platform. Reason being, when the whole shutdown came about, the decision was taken to not bombard the students with so many different interfaces, because we know our students and we know what would work. And at that point, we did not want to frustrate them. So hopefully when the program recommences, we are hoping to go full-fledged into getting them into the Moodle platform. But we as the teachers, we used the concept, the lesson plans, tweak it however we wanted to benefit us. So in a sense, it's very good in my opinion, the whole concept, the lesson plans there. They guide us, they give us ideas that we may not think about. They're there, we could use them. Assessments, we don't have to try to find assessments. They are those we could readily use. So let's hope and see what happens.
Okay.
Come next school year.
And Mr. DeWaz, I know the challenge that teachers were confronted with this past CXC. exams. What has been your experience so far in interfacing with Moodle and your hopes going forward?
Let's say, like the students, I was learning, all right, because I think for those of us who were not readily and always teaching online, like the students we were learning, we were getting acquainted with the platform just like the students. It's just that we had to do it at a faster rate than the students since we had to deliver on it. So in terms of using the Moodle for this set of students who just went by, I did not use it that much, right? Because I'm not very awkward if it's not. I'm still getting acquainted with it. Furthermore, the plans that you had for your students, not all of it would be available in the way that you would have wanted it to be available on the platform, but we made use of it, the little that we could or the much that we could, depending on the needs that our students had. So I could just say we're still in a learning process.
It's a work in progress.
Yes,
so as time goes by, we could tweak things, we could rearrange, we could add, we could subtract, see what works best for us and our students.
Okay, wonderful. Back to Numeracy Hours. As we wrap up, I would appreciate from you, Mr. Hippolyte, an appeal to teachers, to educators of math to be open to the new concept of the Numeracy Hours, the lessons, the interactions with them, and how they approach their lessons going forward to make mathematics more appealing.
Well, like Mr. Deroses said, initially, you had one or two teachers who didn't buy into the idea. But I can safely say at this point in time, all the mathematics teachers of the Form 4 and Form 5 level at the 4 schools that I visit are definitely on board. And they look forward to me coming into the classrooms and giving their assistance. And I like the fact that after each class, that we can sit down, even for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and that we can hash it out. And I would say, Miss Charles, maybe you should do it this way. And Miss Charles would give her reasons for doing it a certain way. And there's this one particular teacher who would go home and 8, 9 o'clock would call me, and then she would say, you know, sir, you were right. After listening and thinking and reasoning it out. And that's what our teachers do. Our teachers are always working. So when I offer the advice during the day, she would go home, they would go home, and they would conceptualize what was taught to them, what was said to them, and then call me back in the evening and said, okay, sir, I'm working on this. How could I do this better? So at this point in time, all the teachers are on board. All the teachers are looking forward, I can say, to the assistance this coming academic year. We're just in a bit of a limbo with this whole COVID issue, and we're not sure how the procedures of school, because some schools have not decided yet as to how they're going to organize their classes. So once we have that settled, then we would know for sure how we're moving forward with our Numeracy Hours program.
Okay, Mr. Rose.
I also wanted to add to what he just said. The mere fact that you have somebody to speak to, it puts you in a position to actively assess what you have done with your student. And I'm not talking about assessing the students. I'm talking about assessing what you, as a teacher, what you have delivered and the manner in which you have delivered it. So because of the interaction with the coach, you are being engaged and you have the advantage of looking at your teaching not only from your vantage point, but also from another person's vantage point. So it adds more facets to it, and so the assessment may be more complete in that sense, the assessment of your teaching.
And also what is critical here is that yes, we have principals and vice principals coming to our class, but with the numeracy coach, he's actually qualified in the content area that we are teaching. And if there is something that we're not doing right or something we can improve on, he's in a great position to, to let us know and to help us better ourselves as math teachers.
Okay, wonderful. I'll leave the final words to the curriculum specialist for mathematics at the Department of Education. We definitely appreciate, the organizing of this. I'm sure that many viewers, students, teachers alike, watching, parents as well, who are concerned about their students, their children, are eager to see how this program rolls out for this new academic year.
Yes. In terms of, numeracy hours on the whole, because the whole point is getting students to have an understanding of the world around them, see how math actually unfolds, and for them to be functionally numerate within society. From the end of our teachers, I think one of the things that our teachers really need to do is the collaboration has to increase, because for us to see the improvement, we know some of our schools, one of the issues is actually teaching the struggling learner. That's one of our issues. And the constant collaboration, we realize that where our teachers have faltered, we tend to keep too much to ourselves in terms of whether it's activities, whether it's some of the exams, some of the resources that we get out there. So the collaboration needs to increase, and we need to have more professional learning communities within our system.
Amen.
In addition to that, our teachers need to retool. We don't need to depend on the Department of Education to say, okay, scholarships are being offered to do this, that, and that. Actually, there are 2 platforms that are offering continuous professional development for teachers. That's Coursera and Future Learn. And those programs are for free. You have short programs for 6 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and you go in there, you view videos, you have the online discussions, and at the end of the day, you get the online certificate. If you want the actual print sent to you, you pay a small fee of probably $1.99 US or free, that is in dollars, sorry, $1.99, and you receive the certificate. So as we progress, as we move forward, one of the things that we really need to do is actually to help with our own personal development, right? Yes.
That seemed like almost like a talk back. But it's all appreciated. This dialogue is really good in terms of getting an understanding from the different perspectives of both teachers and individuals from the Ministry of Education. It's all the time we have for now. I'd like to thank you all for sitting. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. I hope you learned something from your colleagues. On Numeracy Hour, the Department of Education, Innovation and Gender Relations is looking to improve, enhance the offering for students who are studying math at the secondary school level. And with this initiative program expanding, as we've heard from the numeracy coach, Mr. Ian Hippolyte, there have been materials, apparatus now implemented in this academic year to further enhance the Numeracy Hours program. The next time we have you guys here, I hope Mr. Deroses can safely say that he is very pleased 100% with how the program has panned out. And hopefully we do have our fingers crossed for the expansion of it, perhaps to other forms, perhaps more numeracy coaches to further meet the needs of our students studying math in St. Lucia at the secondary school level. Numeracy Hours, recognizing the challenges experienced with math in St. Lucia, the Department of Education, Innovation and Sustainable Development conceptualized the Numeracy Hours initiative here on Island. And so we do hope that as this rolls out, we will see better grades from our students. Coming off from 2018, 43% of the students who wrote the CSEC examinations did not meet the minimum requirements. We do wish our students this year all the best of luck. Our fingers are crossed that they did a wonderful job. And of course, going forward, here's to hoping that things will get better. Yeah? Okay. Ms. Jonella Giffard, Curriculum Specialist for Mathematics, Mr. Ian Hippolyte, Numeracy Coach, Ms. Vangie Charles. Of course, you got a shout out on our Facebook platform. They said, my favorite teacher, Ms. Vangie Charles, a teacher at the Patricia D. James Secondary School, and Mr. J. Deroses, teacher at the Micoud Secondary School. Thank you all for being here for this information session on the Numeracy Hours initiative of the Department of Education. My name is Jessie Leonce. It's all the time we have for now for the midday update. Do stay tuned for more NTN programming. Goodbye. Thank you all.